Probably I'll be sending it out February once I receive all the January reports. So when you send me the reports through January in the month of February, once I receive all those and have them all logged, that would be a really good time to do a mailing at that point, just because we have a full year of data to be pulling off of. So that's probably what we'll be doing. Does anybody have any questions for service providing?
I did want to thank everybody who's turning in their contract data, their service data, as promptly as there are. There are some who don't. There are some who are missing information. Let me kind of spin it to you this way. First goal of this program is to protect public health and get some of the sewage out of the creeks and ditches. You know, the more I talk to you guys, the more I hear it's worse than I thought. Some of the messes that are out there for aerators that aren't being serviced. So that's the first goal. The second goal, maybe you can look at it this way. If you turn correct data into us, if you do it on a timely manner, if you do the stickers, we're spending less time chasing you down and getting you more customers. But the more time I have to have Courtney sifting through bad data, verifying that you're putting stickers out, and all this other minor stuff, the less time we can spend getting letters out, getting people on contract, where we would like to see them, and certainly where you would like to see them as well on your customer list. So if you can help us out, we'll be helping you out in return. So just keep that in mind.
All right, property transfer program. Changing a little bit again as far as the form. I know I get tired of changing the form. I know you guys will probably get tired of me changing the form also. But like Todd said, we have some instances where we need to revise it to help homeowners, help realtors, and whatnot. So I'll go over those changes a little bit, as well as some things we've seen in the field, why we need to probe and whatnot. Sewage evaluations around 667, 118 water evaluations. Those change daily. And we're going to start on the sewage evaluation form. We're just going to start at the top here. The info, and there's a whole stack of them over there you can get. But the information there, occupied, I know some people just put check marks. If you know how many people are living there, if it's 1, if it's 6, that kind of helps me out as far as how the system's possibly going to react once how the system's going to react after another family moves in. So if you can just put that, if you know how many people are in the house, great. That would help me out. Components. We're going to start to run into some newer systems as far as either discharging systems or, well, if they're discharging, you're going to have the UV light. We need to at least look at those. If it's a discharging system, you know, a system that's put in since 07, you're going to have the UV light. If you can at least look in there to make sure that that is working. There's been some instances where that has not been working and everything's still running. That shouldn't happen. Once that UV light goes down, it should have triggered the unit to shut itself down, so the pump stops working or call somebody to service that. Same way with re-air. We need to make sure all those things are working on those new systems that are being installed. You're going to probably start running into some mound systems. That's another thing. If you're not sure how to override pumps, because those are usually on timers. If it just kicked on, less than 4 hours ago, it's not going to kick on again until 4 hours is reached. So make sure you know how to override the pump. Like I said, you just need to dose it probably one time, because you don't need to continue to dose a mound. That's not what we're looking at here. So make sure you know how to properly evaluate a mound or one of the newer systems. Inspections. I know there's been, some people use tablets, some people use liquid. I just looked up on the internet just about one tablet company. They said roughly one tablet is visual in 60 gallons of water, which is not much. 1 ounce of the liquid stuff that we use from Norlab is 1 ounce is about 375 gallons. So make sure that you're using enough tablets to actually see what's coming out on the other side. If it's coming out into a flowing stream, you may have to use a little bit more. It's going to be diluted quite a bit as it goes through the tank, and make sure you're using enough is my main concern. Like I said, you're going to use, just for 1 ounce of liquid, you're going to use 6 1/4 tablets. So make sure you're using the right amount. Even some of the stuff they said here, it says, however, it's desirable, some say may be dropped or flushed into down drains. It says it may be desirable to dissolve them in a small amount of water to form a calculated concentration prior to use. So you know how much you're putting in the system versus just tossing a tablet down that may get caught on something and not dissolve all the way. So you need to make sure that you're doing a good job as far as dye testing the system correctly. I know there's different collars people use. There are certain things they said, it says, certain collars should be used when, in water-bearing heavy sediment loads when passing through soil, with high clay content. So some of those collars may actually get stripped out and you may not see them. It may just look like seepage from a spring or something like that. So make sure you know what product you're using and you're using it correctly. Outlet tees. Make sure we look for outlet tees. I mean, sometimes you may see this inside of a tank. It's just a straight shot. Sometimes you may see a newer one that somebody retrofitted in there. Or sometimes you may see just a regular elbow. Sometimes you see that. Actually, this one looks like it has a hole in the top, but you can see how sludgy it is up above. So you know that tank's been vacuumed up. Make sure, big issue, make sure we can at least see the outlet of the tank, either through photographs. Like I said, we have cameras and these are all, like I said, usually at an angle. You'll see a lot of my dates are upside down because however I hold the camera taking pictures. But get a mirror, get a camera, something you can actually see the outlet tee if possible. If not, try to dig up the back end of the tank. I know some have openings, some don't. But we need to at least see what's happening to the back side of the tank. I think I have another one here. Well, yeah, I'll go here. We may have to look inside the tank before. I know my report says pre and post hydraulic loading. What's the levels? We need to see where the outlet tee is because sometimes, like I said, this one, I took this before, you can't even see the water level. The water level is way down below even the picture level. So after you run 180 gallons, you may only be up to this point. It may not even dose the actual system. Same way with here. You can see it's right about to where it should be. This one is actually at the right level. So make sure you know what the beginning effluent level is. If it seems lower, it could be due to the tank's leaking. That's where we want to make sure that the tank's not leaking and we're actually hydraulically loading the field the way it should be, the way the regulations require. Probing systems. I know people say, hey, the tank's backing up. This is why we probe. This is actually dye coming out of the ground, shooting up out of the ground, because it's under so much hydraulic pressure, the lines were full, they probe down, and it's actually squirting up out of the ground. So make sure you probe. I know records are hit and miss, but there are some decent records that inspectors give me that you should be able to find where those lines are and probe them. I mean, I think some people are getting lazy of not probing like they should. We at least want to know, is that trench totally saturated like this one, or we probe down into that gravel and it just squirts up out of the ground, or is it loaded in the front, not in the back, then there's an issue there, which I'll go into more pictures of that. But if there's records, decent records, you should be able to find those leach lines. I mean, probe down, hit that gravel, tell me how deep that gravel, the depth of those leach lines, and tell me, if it's moist, saturated, dry. That's going to tell me a lot of stuff.
Jason?
Yes.
There's a Ford pickup in the parking lot with its lights on, two-tone copper, license PHQ 5306.
Yeah, it's parked right down here. It's got a white 2-inch pipe on it.
Thanks.
So probe. I know if we have records, decent records, definitely find those leach trenches and probe them to see how they are behaving.
Jason, I'm sorry. If you said this, I apologize. Another reason to probe is even though if you're able to open up a box, that box would be full of water, but the lines can be dry. I know a lot of you have seen that before. You might have roots immediately around the box. You might have dry lines. So that'll tell you some of the...
Yeah, okay. We're going to go over that in the next couple of slides. There's actually a scenario for that.
Okay.
And I know the records has been an issue for some service providers. I think that's been alleviated of how quickly you're going to get those. I can't remember if they submit a request before noon. It's what is it?
We try to get it by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could be patient with us on that, in the years past, we didn't have the multitude of records that were being requested, and it really does keep them hopping down there. The best is you can give us a day's advance notice, but we try, if you give it to us in the AM before noon, we try to get it to you by the end of the day. If you give in the PM, you should get it by the next morning. Now, unfortunately, some people want it the very next half an hour, and that just a lot of times can't happen. We understand there's emergencies. We'll try to accommodate that. But if you would do a little advanced planning, that would help us. Some people think they're the only one that are requesting records, and we have hundreds of records going out in a week. So if you would help us out, we'd appreciate that.
Jason, on this off, if Kathy sends back and said there's no maps or no records available, that is her resource to the files down there. That means there's no information in your database on the property?
Yes, and we are in the process of moving a lot more files down. I know there's some probably possible past inspections that she didn't have access to, so we're going to actually put all those in the file. I know they're going through a procedure as far as looking in a few more places like the nuisance database and stuff like that to see if there are any records that possibly are upstairs. If they're a nuisance, they may still be up on the sanitarian's desk or in their files. So as she puts no files, that means there's nothing downstairs. I mean, if she has questions, she can ask one of the sanitarians, in that area, say, hey, do you have this file, or are you familiar with it? Then we can do some more research and say, yes, there is something. But most of the time, we are getting better at sending, those requests and saying no records. If I do find records, I'll include those with your report, and hopefully you guys find what is actually written down. But there's been some instances where if we mess up and we don't have records, we'll go back out with sanitarians and check and verify that all those things are working, since it was our fault. Okay.
That there has been some problems, and you all know that. And what we've tried to do is, she was just checking records downstairs, but now we have a database where all our nuisances are kept on the computer. So she's been instructed now to go to that database and look there too, not just up in the upright files. A lot of times there's an actual active nuisance on a property that she doesn't have access to, because we maintain those upstairs until they're completed, abated, and done. So we want to make sure you know that stuff. That's certainly important information for you. So we have changed our internal policy to make sure she checks everywhere that it could possibly be located.
You guys not put a slip in the original space for that file saying this file is upstairs? Or?
It's better just for her to look in the computer. Because the slips won't get there. I'll just put it to you that way.
Do you have intentions of scanning and putting all the upright files on the computer?
Every time anytime we have an occasion to pull the file, it gets scanned. But it's just, if you guys recall when we were doing the Phase 2 program and Amos and Bethany were working on that was a 3-year undertaking just to get a small portion of all those records in. So it's time and money. So as we have occasions to pull them, they go in, but we don't have the manpower to just go through and scan all of them.
Nice summer job for a college kid.
What's that?
Nice summer job for a college kid.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well, the problem is with college kids is they're not invested, and we've been down this road too many times.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, they don't do the greatest of work.
Find somebody at McDonald's.
Yeah. No.
All right, and the next few slides are going to go into what Todd was saying. We had a tank backup or a line. There could be very many reasons. This was actually done by a service provider, probed and found some things of what was happening there. You can see tree roots. I mean, totally black here where this is coming from the tank, and then it's totally just jam-packed. Look at it all the way through. There it is. That's why we probe. The tank was backing up. The inspector, the service provider at that time, noticed that the end of the lines were clean. You can see. Look at the pipe here at the beginning of the line. There's a pipe at the end that they dug up. Looks like it's not even been used. This is the gravel at the end of the line. Look at that. It looks good. So you can see this is actually, and they actually dug up the front 10 feet, 10, 15 feet. The service provider did, and they actually ran a garden hose in there, and they ran 450 gallons just in one line, and that line took it all, and it just started to show up in the gravel in the end of the line. So those lines are still in great shape.